the newsroom. The market is slightly soft today, but no worries. It's the third day in a row that we are seeing some softness coming in line with what's happening globally. So we thought of looking at long-term charts today with someone who looks at charts very closely, and personally I follow his work closely, and which is Nooresh Merani. He's right here in our studios today. Nooresh, thanks very much for dropping by. Let's pull up the longer-term chart of say the small caps. Everybody is discussing in the market when will small caps start moving in. So we've got long-term charts of small cap index. That's the 5-year chart. Tell us, Nooresh, what does the chart tell you?
So if you look at the BSE small cap, what has happened is for the last 2 years we've been in a consistent downtrend, and for the first time we've come back to retesting the highs. So for example, we've not made a new high about 13,780, which was the recent one when corporate tax rate cuts came in. But we've started knocking off those price points in the last couple of weeks. So once we start sustaining about 13,800 to 14,000, we could see a lot of momentum coming in. And that is how small caps turn around. So as of today, like last time when we met in August, we were looking at a turnaround. Now we are close to looking at a breakout point in the coming weeks or months. So the next trigger, we could see a much bigger move, and this is being seen across all indices, if not just BSE small cap. The last correction in the BSE small cap 2011 to 13 was almost 3 years. So we've already done 2 years in the current one. So I think price-wise we are done in terms of the last bottom, but time-wise we are still left, wherein once we start sustaining our 14,000, we'll say, okay, the trend has totally changed and the momentum could be sharp.
Right, so 700, about 600 points more for that to actually come in. Let's get another important index on the screen, Nifty Jr, the Nifty Next 50. It is got largish mid-cap stocks like Piramal, like a couple of insurance stocks. It's got HPCL as well. Nifty Jr will just come up on your screen right now. And but many of the times we've seen Nifty Jr or Nifty Next 50 as it is called. The components of this actually become the Nifty components later on. It's not coming on the screen right now, but what are your thoughts on Nifty Jr? Nooresh, that's the 5-year Nifty Jr.
So if you look at Nifty Junior Index, this is one interestingly made index wherein none of the stocks in the weight-wise is more than 5%. So it's a very well-diversified index. Secondly, when we look at Nifty Next 50, so this index, for example, has been underperforming the Nifty for quite some time now, which is generally not the case. So the divergence which started with Nifty and the small caps, then shifted to mid caps, then shifted to large caps, has now, even with the Nifty Next 50 and even in the Nifty 50, what we see is it has been diverging towards the top names only. So in the Nifty Next 50, we recently went back to the highs of 28,800, 29,000, which has been attempted 4 times in the last 1 year. So once we break out about those zones, we could see the broader, even in the largest names, the larger mid caps to start blowing out. So we are interestingly poised even in the Nifty Next 50, and this is a very good index as a play in terms of an ETF also, because it's a very well diversified index. So if you see, there are 4 tops around that 29,000 mark in the last 1 year. So once that is taken out, we can see a much bigger move even than Nifty Next 50 stocks.
So what's the target you're watching out for on Nifty Next 50, so, say 1 to 2 year time frame is concerned?
So we would eventually expect it to hit all-time highs. So wherein we'll consolidate in this range. The next attempt about 29,000, we could be looking at a 10-15% move right away. So that's the band we are in. After attempting 4 times, we generally see the 5th or the 6th time the breakout happens.
All right, let's come to Nifty, which is intriguing everybody by moving higher, but very few people have their portfolios mapped to Nifty. What does the picture look like on the Nifty?
So if you look at Nifty, what has happened since say January 18, it has made 2 to 3 new highs. At the same time, the Bank Nifty has continued to make say 3 new highs, and it has been almost 10-15% higher from January. But the Nifty has not been similarly higher. So because of the large weights of banks, this move has been strong. So we don't see momentum sustaining about 12,300 in the near term, and maybe we would be again going into a slow zone. Unlike previously when the whole weights of the Nifty would do well, every new high would see momentum. But if we see the last 2-3 highs, we've always gone a bit higher and then paused. So we'd expect some pause here, and then the next move, whenever it happens, it could be broad-based, not just the Nifty, but the next 50, the small caps and the mid caps. So maybe the next trigger, so for example, triggers would come out of nowhere. Like corporate tax rate cuts came out of nowhere. So whenever we are in a downtrend in the small caps, we just need a trigger. So in 2013, nothing changed, the perception changed, and we blew out about 6,400 before the elections itself. So we are placed very interestingly on the Nifty as well. Not momentum in the near term, but the next move could be very interesting.
Sure. We'll talk about banks with you, Nooresh, but meanwhile, let's also get in a FII view first on the banks. Then we'll pull up the Bank Nifty last 5 years and talk about how Bank Nifty on charts are looking. But here's Mark Matthews talking about how corporate banks are looking, because after all, this rally to a large extent, the last leg has been led by banks, PSU large banks, corporate banks, all of them. Let's get a view on that first.
It's clearly the problem in the non-bank financial companies that's led to uncertainty and unwillingness to lend, and the public banks not being adequately capitalized to extend a lot of new credit. So the thing that's holding the economy back is definitely the credit cycle, and there's no immediate answer there. But the government has done what it can, and I think really a 180-degree turn in the last call it 2 months. If the earnings are to be trusted, the consensus is looking for over 20% earnings growth next year. I really don't know how reliable that number is, but if it is true, then I do think there's a case for the broader market that you referred to beyond those top 10 stocks performing well next year. Underneath the Nifty Index, there are a lot of good things, and that would include, in my opinion, the corporate banks, the utilities, the pharmaceutical companies, and selectively the PSUs, because.
So that was a fundamental view coming in from FII, Julius Baer, Mark Matthews on banks. Let's also get in a view on the Bank Nifty last 5 years. That's the Bank Nifty last 5 years. Look at how jagged edges are there. But last, say, couple of months, there's specific strength coming in. Why? Because select portion of the Bank Nifty, corporate banks have come back, become a consensus trade. Large PSU banks, or SBI, etc., are coming back. Nooresh, what's the hypothesis, your analysis on Bank Nifty?
So the interesting part about Bank Nifty is, since the time we changed to free float in 2009, this is the only sector which keeps on raising money and the float keeps on increasing. So in the last 2 years, we've seen that example wherein banks have been leading, financials have been leading. So this is now closer to 40% of the Nifty. So this is the major part. So every new high since January 18, we've seen all new highs happen on Bank Nifty. The other indices like Nifty 500, Nifty 200 have not been able to do so. So Bank Nifty, we've seen the rotation wherein we've seen ICICI Bank take the lead. Now going ahead, we would expect something like SBI in a few months' time could be the leader going ahead. So that's the lead shifting.
In fact, I want your view on SBI, ICICI Bank, Kotak. If you could pull up the 5-year charts coming in, these are good leadership coming in. What are your thoughts on some of these banks?
So if you look at Kotak Bank, for example, it has been sustaining about the last breakout point above 1550, 1600. We could expect further momentum in the near term once it starts sustaining about 1660, wherein we could be looking at 1800 odd levels. So Kotak could be the new leader in the largest banks, and SBI could take some more time. Wherein if you look at a 10-year chart of SBI, the last high was almost in 2010 at 350. We made the same highs recently in the last year, wherein we went to 370 and we came back lower. So we made that first false move. So any dips closer to 310, 320 is where we could find a base. Right. And the next time when we move about 350, 370, it could be like the ICICI Bank, which started making stronger moves above 420, then 450, and now like the last move from 450 to 520 was much faster.
Right. In fact,
this is a preemption.
Great. Let's also pull up the PSU index. PSUs is clearly where a lot of work is actually happening. In fact, Atanu Chakravarti, our Deepam secretary, is a busy man right now. He also has on his agenda a divestment of PSUs, apart from, of course, raising fund by the Bharat bond fund, which they have just announced today. Let's get in his thoughts and we'll talk about some of the PSUs as well shortly.
ये दिसंबर में launch होता है.
Okay, sir, how will this help the common people? As FM mentioned, that this is brought so that the common man also can experience how the bond market works. Also, you were mentioning about a certain building up of a yield curve. So how will it exactly function?
माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने बताया है कि ये रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को अभी बॉन्ड मार्केट में नहीं जा सकता. ये हम बास्केट ऑफ बॉन्ड्स दे रहे हैं और ETF जो है वो एक अल्टरनेटिव है. अभी तक डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में वो जा सकता है, लेकिन ETF जो है वो एक सुपीरियर प्रोडक्ट इसलिए है क्योंकि वो डेली ट्रेड होगा, एक्सचेंज में ट्रेड होगा, उसकी 3-4 बार नेट एसेट वैल्यू आएगी, उसका पोर्टफोलियो डिस्क्लोजर वो डेली होगा और उसमें भी इंडेक्सेशन बेनिफिट, जो टैक्स इंडेक्सेशन बेनिफिट हैं वो मिलेंगे। तो उस हिसाब से जो ETF है वो एक ज़्यादा लिक्विड है, और इसमें छोटे से छोटा, क्योंकि बॉन्ड डेट म्यूचुअल फंड में 5,000 रुपये की लिमिट है, इसमें 1,000 रुपये की होगी, तो और भी छोटा इन्वेस्टर इसमें जा पाएगा।
All right, that was not Atanu Chakravarti, but Deepam Sekhi talking about the benefits of this particular offering. Nooresh, very quickly, if you could talk about the PSU index, and you are making a case that select PSUs will do well.
So what we see, the PSU can be two baskets, the top 4-5 names, which will come into the ETF basket, and there will be perpetual selling because these are not going to be privatized. So we can leave apart ONGC, Coal India, NTPC, Power Grid. And apart from that, all the smaller PSU names look very interesting, wherein it could be SAIL, NALCO, NMDC, and all the other names, even like a BPCL, SCI, Concor. So these are the names which should be in radar for a much longer term move. And we would expect these are the cases for privatization. If not privatization, this is where a lot of ETF selling would not happen. And we are seeing long-term trend changes across this price point. So if NMDC at 115, if it sustains above those levels, could be a major trend change. SAIL above 42 would be a major trend change. NALCO above 48.50. So all of these are long-term breakouts in the making. When it happens, the moves could be faster. So these are the names I would track. I would still avoid the larger PSU names because we'll continue to see another maybe 2 offerings of ETFs this year and next year. So till the time ETF is not the mode of raising money, they are not interesting. Moment we say ETFs are off, then maybe we'll start looking at large cap PSU names. For now, the smaller the better in the PSU basket.
All right, Nooresh, thanks very much for stopping by in our studios today. That was Nooresh Merani, well-known technical analyst, helping us understand how the long-term charts looking of some of the key components of the market.